The red carpet shimmered under the blinding lights of countless cameras, each flash capturing moments that would soon be splashed across headlines. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, where Hollywood's finest gathered to honor artistry, glamour, and prestige. The crowd outside gasped as limousines pulled up, one after another, spilling out icons in glittering gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos. The air buzzed with excitement. Reporters called out names, microphones thrust forward, hoping for soundbites that would define the evening. But no one could have anticipated what was about to unfold, a confrontation that would overshadow every award, every performance, every memory of that night. At first, everything seemed flawless. Daniel Carter, the silver-haired media tycoon, walked confidently with his much younger fiancée, Elena. Her sapphire blue gown matched the intensity of her piercing eyes, and her elegance drew every lens in her direction. Arm in arm, they looked untouchable. Daniel was powerful, wealthy, and accustomed to controlling the narrative of his life. Elena, graceful yet mysterious, had become the subject of countless rumors ever since she entered his world. To outsiders, they appeared as the perfect couple, but beneath the polished surface, cracks were forming. From across the velvet ropes, a familiar face emerged: Michael Harris, Daniel's former business partner and once his closest friend. The two men had built an empire together before betrayal tore them apart. Michael's once loyal presence had shifted into bitterness after Daniel outmaneuvered him in a ruthless corporate takeover years ago. He had vanished from the spotlight, his career and reputation shattered. But tonight, he wasn't here for business or revenge. He was here for something far more personal. As Daniel and Elena posed for photos, Michael stormed forward, breaking past the line of security with a fury that startled the crowd. His jaw clenched, his voice sharp as he pointed directly at Daniel, his finger trembling with anger. Gasps rippled through the audience as paparazzi cameras clicked frantically, desperate to freeze the moment in time. But the real shock wasn't the finger pointed at Daniel. It was the truth that Michael carried, the kind that could burn everything to ashes. "You think you can hide forever, Daniel?" Michael shouted, his voice cracking against the night air. "You stole more than my company, you stole my family." Elena stiffened at his words. For a split second, her carefully composed mask faltered, and her eyes widened in recognition. The cameras caught it, every viewer watching later would see it too, that flicker of truth, that unspoken fear. The younger woman clinging to Michael's arm, her pale blue dress trembling under her nervous grasp, looked directly at Elena. Her eyes were filled with disbelief, as if a puzzle she had been struggling with for years had finally revealed its picture. The crowd fell silent, sensing the storm brewing between the men. Daniel's face hardened, his voice low but venomous. "This isn't the place, Michael. Leave before you embarrass yourself further." Michael laughed bitterly. "Embarrass myself? You destroyed everything I built. You ruined my marriage. And now," his eyes cut sharply to Elena, his finger rising once more. "Now you've taken her too." The photographers gasped. Reporters leaned in closer. Every word felt like an explosion, and the truth began to unravel in front of a sea of flashing lights. Elena's hand trembled on Daniel's arm, but she didn't step away. Her silence, her icy calm, only fueled the tension. She didn't defend herself. She didn't deny Michael's accusation. Instead, she stood tall, her lips pressed into a tight line, her expression unreadable. The younger woman with Michael clutched his sleeve, whispering frantically. Her voice carried just enough to be picked up by the nearest microphone. "Dad, please, don't do this here." The revelation landed like a thunderbolt. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Gasps echoed through the night. Elena's eyes met the girls', and in that exchange, the hidden history began to surface. Michael's daughter, Sarah, had stumbled into the truth just days before. For years, she believed her mother had left because of distance, because of arguments too painful to resolve. But the truth was far darker. Daniel had entangled himself with Michael's wife, and the fallout had destroyed not just a marriage, but an entire family. Sarah had kept silent, torn between loyalty to her father and the fear of igniting a scandal that could consume them all. But now, under the relentless glow of the cameras, silence was no longer an option. Her trembling voice broke through the chaos. "Elena isn't who you think she is. She's the reason my family was torn apart. She was with him long before tonight." The world seemed to tilt. Reporters gasped, paparazzi surged forward, and the crowd screamed questions, their voices blending into a cacophony of disbelief. Daniel's face twisted with fury, not at the accusation, but at the loss of control. His empire thrived on power, on dictating the narrative, but now the story was slipping from his grasp. Michael's voice cracked as years of pain poured out. You think wealth buys forgiveness? You think a red carpet erases the damage you've done? Look at her, Daniel. Look at the cost of your greed. He gestured toward Sarah, who clung to him like an anchor in the storm. Her tears glistened under the relentless camera flashes, capturing her pain for the world to see. Elena finally spoke, her voice low but sharp, slicing through the chaos. Enough. The single word silenced the crowd, if only for a moment. She turned her gaze from Michael to Sarah, her eyes softening. I never wanted it to be this way. But your mother, she made choices too. The words ignited a firestorm. Sarah recoiled as if struck, while Michael's face contorted with rage. The crowd roared, some jeering, others shouting for security. Yet Elena stood her ground, her calm presence both infuriating and captivating. She was not the trembling figure of guilt the world expected, she was composed, deliberate, and unapologetic. Daniel tightened his grip on her arm, his whisper audible only to her. Not here, not now, don't you dare give them more. But it was too late. The truth had already slipped into the hands of the press, and by morning, the world would dissect every word, every glance, every gesture. Security rushed forward, trying to separate the men as the scene spiraled out of control. Michael resisted, his shouts echoing. You'll never bury the truth, Daniel. The world will know what you did. Cameras captured every frame, the rage in Michael's eyes, the desperation in Sarah's voice, the icy composure of Elena, and the cold fury etched into Daniel's face. It was the kind of scandal that would fuel tabloids for months, documentaries for years, and whispers in Hollywood forever. As Michael was pulled back, his voice broke with one final plea. Sarah deserves better than lies. She deserves her family back. The words hung in the air, raw and unpolished, piercing through the flashing lights and the orchestrated glamour of the night. Elena's gaze lingered on Sarah, something unreadable flickering behind her eyes. For a brief second, the mask slipped, revealing not just guilt but sorrow. Perhaps she knew the choices she had made had set events into motion that could never be undone. Perhaps she realized that, in chasing power and love, she had destroyed more than she had gained. Or perhaps, deep down, she simply didn't care anymore. The limousines rolled on. The music inside the venue played. The ceremony continued, as it always does, because the show must go on. But outside, beneath the camera flashes and the whispers of a stunned crowd, lives had been shattered beyond repair. The confrontation wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning, one that would echo far beyond the glitter of that single night. When the headlines hit the next morning, they weren't about the winners or the gowns or the performances. They were about betrayal, broken families, and the shocking red carpet confrontation that no one would ever forget.